Hello, welcome to my channel, Sharon at Be Divine Vintage. I bet you've been wondering where I am. Feel like I've disappeared off the face of the earth. I am full of a cold again. I've had this lingering cough and cold now since the 10th of January. Been to my GP, had chest x-rays, bloods, all that done. And apparently until the warm weather comes, really, I'm not going to be getting rid of this. I'm going to keep picking up bugs. So there you go. I was going to do a tutorial on how I made this. However, I'm just checking I'm in frame there. However, I'm not going to be able to because it is too long-winded. So I really don't feel like doing a long-winded video. So I thought I would talk about paper beads, because these are so easy to do with your scraps, and especially if you're not feeling well, they can be quite therapeutic actually. So there could well be a couple of videos on bead making and embellishing beads. There's another one. So I have put this little tutorial together. Keep all my little beads in a jar. You can use a skewer, or you know, the round type of skewers. You can use a cocktail stick. I invested, it didn't cost me much, over on eBay there for this little bead making implement. You see it's got a little, I don't know if you can see a little groove down there just to slot your bead into. So first of all, let me get my little, I've got a little potato of drying beads. This reminds me of when I was a little girl and my mum used to do back in the 70s, you know, at parties where you'd have a grapefruit or something covered in silver foil and she'd do cheese squares. Anyway, I've used it for my beads. So today, this morning, we're going to look at how to make, let's put that back. Initially, the first bead we're going to look at are these. So these are all the same bead, exactly the same method of bead, but with different sizes of paper. Just seeing that you've got that there. So so you can see the sort of pointed at each end. So what I did is I got my cutter, I got my scrap of paper. This is great for using up your scraps. I went to 1 inch at one end, but to the other down to the cutting line. So one's at 1 inch, the other is at no inches, 0 inches. I'll just cut that. So we get this tapered piece of paper. Use whichever paper you want to do. And it's like I said, it's a great way to use up scraps. Now what you do is you just slide, I'll show you how to do it on a cocktail stick in a minute. You just slide it into the groove and you just literally just twist. What you need to do initially is just make sure that, I need a new paper cutter. You need to make sure, you can see each end here as the paper comes in, because it is cut in that triangular shape, that those sides are equal. Otherwise you end up with a skew with your bead. You just literally just keep turning. Once you've got them even, you just keep turning. Then when you get about 1 inch, get your glue. This is just good old tacky glue. And come on, glue. Gluey, gluey. Put that on there. and just finish off. Some people put glue on at the beginning, but I really don't think you need to. And there we go. And that just slides off, so don't start it off too tightly. And there you've got your paper bead. Then what I do is I put it on my little cocktail stick, and I have some diamond glaze, because I find this sets hard and it sets quick as well. Let's get my little brush. My little brush, here it is. Just get my little brush, just dab it dry. So I just get some diamond glaze, then I literally just paint the bead with diamond glaze, and it'll take about an hour to dry, that's all, pretty quick. And I just stick that in my potato to dry. Let's do another just using a cocktail stick. Here's the piece that I cut, it's the same as the other. 1 inch at the top, going to a point. So literally then you just start it off, just you know, just twizzle it around just to get it round and into shape. You don't need to go too tight, and just watch these ends that you get as the roll starts to get smaller. Make sure that they're equal both sides, and in you come. When I first started making paper beads, this was the method. Whoops, I've let go there because I'm talking. When I first started making paper beads, this was the method that I used. However, now I have my little Twizzler. All right, let's get them sides equal again. It is a little bit more fiddly on a cocktail stick, but it gets exactly the same result. There we go, we'll go in now, we'll go in for it. As you can see, and just keep turning it and feeding it. Turn it with one hand and feed it with another. Ta-da! Glue. Just on the end. And then diamond glaze. And just let that dry. So that's the first one. Simple but really effective, I think. This one, so that's, I've done that with, this is the same paper as I've just made those two, and this is set with the diamond glaze, and they really are quite solid beads. I did this one, the tiny one, and I did that out of some scrap here. So what I basically just did, I didn't do any measuring, I just cut down to make a point. This is going to be bigger than that one. And I put my paper up in. So what I'm saying here is you don't actually need to measure, you could just freehand it. I know some people do like measuring, especially if you want all your beads to be the same size, and it's imperative that you measure. So there we go, that's one that I haven't measured, that I've just cut myself. It's good fun to just play and see what happens. Put that around, take that off. I've got a little bit extra there, so I'm just going to cut that off. Now I know it's bigger than that one, but it's purely because I've cut a bigger piece. I'm going to pop that on my stick and diamond glaze it. I always just diamond glaze straight away, then I know it's done, and I can leave them to start drying. Like I say, it only takes about an hour to dry. So that is that style. That is that style where it's a nice sort of elongated oval shape. Now you can do great big ones. So here, I did 2 inches down to 0. So that's the 1 inch to 0. That's 2 inches to 0. You see the difference in sizes? I suppose you could go as big or as small as you want to do. So that's what happens if you go to 0, from a measurement at one end to a 0 measurement at the other. The next one I did is here. I'm just showing you 3 types today. So this one is actually, let me compare the two. You see, whereas this one goes to really quite pointed and it is that symmetrical shape. Well, this one, although it is symmetrical again, but can you see it's much wider in the middle there? So this one, I'll show you what to do. So here's my piece of paper, and I've literally gone, let's measure it. It's great fun just messing around and doing these. I have gone 2 inches to 1 inch. So this is what happens here. So put it back on. It doesn't matter if it's longer than your bead implement. And I could use a cocktail stick, but I'm just thinking as I've got a bead implement, I'll just use my bead. So it's exactly the same principle. Get it started, going round. Make sure it's matching at each end. There we go. And then just turn. You can see this one is much broader in the middle. Got my little beads whizzing around. I'm going to enjoy decorating these. Because this is quite thick card, not card, because it's a card as a heavy gram of paper, it's thicker too. So that you can see is flat there, as opposed to that one which comes more curved in the middle. It's just the same again. Put some glue on. Just hold that down. Let's get some more. This is Judykin's diamond glaze. Put that on there. It's easier, I find, to put it out and paint it on as opposed to oops, hang on, that's moving a bit. It's my own fault. See how it does sort of move a little bit? The diamond glaze will stop that, because diamond glaze is a fixative as well, and it will glue it in shape. I was just thinking then, I wonder if crackle glaze will do the same job. Just put it on. And what effect that would create? I bet it would. Ooh, that's maybe something I need to do another time. Maybe next video, because I've got some more different types of beads to show you. I'll use some crackle glaze and see the effect. So there we go. One thing with this diamond glaze, don't get it on your clothes. It's horrible. I got it on my pyjamas this morning when I was practicing these beads. Right, I'm going to pop that in my potato. Then the last type I've got to show you. Oh, so that's exactly the same as that one, except it's smaller. And I've just done it with a scrap of paper. So it's flatter as opposed to that more curved shape. That's number 2. Right, bead number 3. 1, 2, 3 is dead simple. This is bead number 3. As you can see, well, there's some scraps of coffee dyed paper. That's some old ledger paper. So those strips that you might have left that you cut off from the edges of your page. I was looking round for that then, next to my hand. Put that in. Now, if you're easier putting this to the end there, the base, I should say, and keeping it lined there so that your paper stays in line. So this, because your paper's the same thickness all the way along, this thickness here, by keeping it at the base, it'll keep it into the shape of the tube. So this you do exactly the same. You can use any width of paper. As you can see, I've obviously used a wider one there. Just keep going. Just going to have a sip of water. Just keep going and done. I'm going to put a bit of glue on here. A little bit of glue. It does dry quickly, that tacky glue. That happens too. This spring open. Take it off. Cocktail stick. Oh, I'll put that down in the diamond glaze. A bit of diamond glaze. Oops, everything's dropping everywhere. You know, and you could just do like with 3 hands. Right, there we go. This is so therapeutic, honestly. Oh, I think I could just sit doing this all... Well, I'm not feeling so good, just sit doing this all day long. Right. There we go. I can pop that in my potato. You've guessed it. So you could use a little tiny piece as well. Let's just see what happens with this one. Put that in. Keep it against the base. I think this was about £10, no more than £10 off eBay. I just put in like bead roller. Glue. It's just experiment. That's the best bit. Just keep hold of that a minute. Because it's card, it feels like it's going to unroll. I want to pull it off, she says. There we go, it's off. And there's a little tube bead. Put it on my stick. Diamond glaze it. And onto my, I nearly said cocktail potato. Right, so now as you can see, some of these beads I had started to decorate. So I've got this one here. So what I did, this is one of these like tube beads. So I literally got some metallic gilding polish. This is the Cosmic Shimmer. You could use Rub and Buff. You could use whatever you fancy. I've got some, this is, oh gosh, I can't remember what it's called. Angelina fibres. I'm just going to get a few Angelina fibres out of there. I'm going to put some glue. Actually, I'm not going to do it in pink. I'm going to do it in this lovely glue, and you can see it better. There's my Angelina fibres. I'm going to put some glue on here. around, get my Angelina fibres and just sort of wrap them around, bring them in, keep wrapping around, bring them in, wrap around. I thought these looked exquisitely pretty, especially, you know, say you're doing a mermaid or butterfly insect journal or fairy journal. And then I literally got my brush and I just painted the ends with my gilding paste. Let's cut them off. And there it is. Doesn't it look pretty? Just bob this on a stick and I'll just pop it on the potato. I also thought about stickles. So I'm going to get one of these, the rounded shape ones, the first ones I showed you. Get my stickles. I've got some orange peel, this one's called. Let me just check it's working. Yeah, and then I thought just you see, that's that end. Let's move it up a bit. Swap over sides. That orange looks really nice on there. Of course, you don't have to decorate them. There we go. How pretty is that? Looks lovely. Whoop! Just dropped it. It's just rolled off it rolled off the potato. Just redo them bits there. There we go. That's that one. You could just distress. So let's get this. Sorry about that. Excuse me. So I've got some vintage photo. I've had this such a long time. I just keep topping it up and topping it up. So get your sponge and just distress it to make it, give it that more sort of vintagey look. That doesn't take much, but look how lovely it looks. I think actually, do you know what I'm going to do? I am going to just add a bit of gold to the ends of that. I think it'll just give it a bit of something else. Got Angelina fibres stuck to me now. Finding them stuck to parts of me all day long. Let's put that on there. Okay, nice. That one looks. So that's just distressed and then the gold put on. Let's bob that in the potato. A little tiny piece of napkin. I nearly said serviette because it's called serviettes here. A little piece in the UK, a little piece of serviette. Let's put it on this one. And let's decoupage it. Let's put a bit of glue. I doubt we'll need much glue. Just put a little bit of glue around. You do end up with messy fingers, but that don't bother me. You could work on the cocktail stick if you wanted. Let's put that on. And then just take that around. That's pretty too. Do you know what I think I'll do to this? I think I'll put some, in fact I don't need that, I'm going to put some diamond glaze on here. Now as I've used my brush for gilding. Let's just clean it off. So I'm going to use some diamond glaze just to seal that napkin on there. And then it'll not tighten it up, it'll harden it up. So that's another. I quite like the gold on the ends. Toothpick, cocktail stick. There we go. And another thing, I had these, I've been doing some dyeing, so I had these paper towels. So I thought, oh, let's just see what that looks like. So I'm just going to take a piece of paper towel. I'm going to just rip it down. I'm going to put some glue on. In fact, I don't need to put glue on. Actually, I could just do it with diamond glaze. So I put the diamond glaze on, get my paper, my little scrap of paper towel, wrap that around. That is rather pretty too. Seal it with diamond glaze. So I just got a little tray together when I started doing the beads. I hadn't really planned what I was going to do. I got a little tray of interesting things together, which I'm using now to decorate. I thought, yeah, we could try some decoupage and do the Angelina. The other thing I'd got, but these are only tiny, so let's see. The other thing I've thought is some distress crayon. Let's see if it works. So I've got this tiny one here. Just put some distress crayon on it. That's a speckled egg. Just gonna do this. I suppose this is very similar to using the distress oxides as well. So that's that. I'm going to paint that with the diamond glaze. I'm just putting the diamond glaze here onto a little bit of parchment paper. That's nice. Let's put that on there. That's nice. It's just caught the blue. Let's get a cocktail stick. There we are. Of course, you don't have to decorate them at all. And there's that one. So, I'm Sharon, and you've been watching me on my channel, Be Divine Vintage. It's lovely to chat. Oh, I forgot about this. Forgot. You could always put a little dangle on a bulb pin, and then you could just pop your pin through. There we go, like that. Pop your pin through. And there you go, you've got another method of decorating too. So yeah, I'm Sharon, you've been watching Be Divine Vintage. I'm going to go back to my bed now. I hope you've enjoyed this little video, making our beads and embellish thingdom. There they are on my potato. I did pick one that was not in the best shape, state of health, a bit like me actually. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'd love to see some of the beads that you make too. Thank you so much. Bye bye.